Hi everyone, in this video we're going to look at application layer. Okay, so kita tengok dekat TCP/IP protocol suite. The application layer is basically a combination of the application, presentation and session layer in the OSI 7 layer model. So sebenarnya application layer inilah the first line yang menjadi interface kepada user untuk access the services of the TCP/IP model. So ada berbagai-bagai protokol yang user boleh guna dekat application layer. So common protocols include HTTP, FTP, TFTP, IMAP and DNS. Basically, whatever applications is being developed, as long as it wants to use the services of the TCP/IP, then it should be available as a protocol at the application layer lah. So functionality presentation layer of the OSI 7 layer model juga terdapat dalam the application layer of the TCP/IP model. So tugas presentation layer, macam nama dia presentation, is basically to make the data coming from the application protocols presentable or compatible untuk device yang dia nak hantar tu. Jadi dia mesti make sure that this data is readable by the destination host. So contoh-contoh tugas untuk make the data presentable or compatible adalah termasuk formatting, compression, encryption. So semua benda ni make sure the data is readable through the interconnecting devices as well as the destination host. At the session layer, macam nama dia session, so dia akan create the session ataupun dialog. So tugas dia adalah untuk keep track of one conversation from a source host to a destination host sehinggalah habis data transmission itu. Jadi dia penting bila masa katalah sesuatu host sedang hantar data dan tiba-tiba the connection to the internet is interrupted. Jadi the session layer lah yang bertugas untuk keep track sampai mana data dah selamat dihantar. Jadi bila internet connection is being restored, dia akan sambung straight daripada from the point that the data transmission was interrupted dan sambung sehingga habis data transmission itu. So tugas dia untuk keep track of the dialogue between the sender and the receiver. Okay, so ini adalah some of the common application layer protocols. Satu, domain name system. Ini digunakan untuk kita resolve domain name kepada IP address sebab kita perlu letak IP address dekat network layer, tetapi sebagai application kita selalunya access sesuatu services menggunakan domain name. Contoh, kita nak access HTTP service, kita akan letak website name, for example cisco.com, but this needs to be translated into IP address so that the real destination can be determined and put inside the IP packet. So untuk DNS, dia gunakan transport layer both TCP and UDP, and the port number is 53. Another popular protocol which many of you will use is DHCP or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. So network administrators akan gunakan DHCP untuk dynamically assign IP addresses to their user host sebab it would be cumbersome and less manageable kalau kita letak IP, assign the IP statically. Jadi protokol ni menggunakan UDP sebagai transport layer and the port number is 68 for the client and the server uses the port number 67. Another protocol is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, a very common protocol. So it uses the transport layer TCP protocol and the port number can either be 80 or 8080. Now let's look at the common architecture where we access services at the application layer. So the first one is the client and server model. So in this model, the client or the device requesting the information is called a client, and the device responding to the request is called a server. So in order for them to understand each other, any protocol at the application layer that uses the client server model kena bagi tahu definition of the proper format untuk the client and the server communicate with each other. So dia mesti ada some format untuk message to request for the services and the other format untuk respond to this request. Contoh kita ada HTTP GET, HTTP SET, itu adalah contoh how HTTP defines when a client or a user wants to access a certain web page. So the HTTP SET is how the server sets certain parameters for the HTTP protocol. Another model to access services adalah peer-to-peer networks. In this case, all the devices can either be a client and a server, so they do not have a dedicated server. In this case, they can share the resources and information with each other without having a coordinator or a server. Peer-to-peer application allows a device to act as both a client and a server within the same communication. So this application means it's the software tool that enables kita punya device to assume both of the roles as client and the server. So ini contoh peer-to-peer applications lah. I'm sure most of you might use this commonly to download files that you are looking for over the internet. Next, let's look at applications for the web and the email. The application to access the web is HTTP, and this protocol uses the hypertext markup language as a programming language for users to create softwares available for web. So, salah satu benda yang meaningful dalam HTTP adalah kita panggil sebagai URL or the Uniform Resource Locator. So, URL ini adalah untuk kita spesifikan the web address. Dan selalunya kita access web address ini melalui web browser. Jadi web browser ni kita access daripada a client host, and from the URL kita akan create a connection to the web server. So komponen yang ada dalam URL adalah the protocol, which is HTTP, then the server name, which is for example here www.cisco.com. So ini adalah salah satu contoh of a domain name. And then kita request for a specific file. So kalau HTTP biasanya the first page is called the index. So index.html melambangkan that first page was in the HTML language. So bila sampai dekat browser, bila user request tu, the browser itself adalah satu application menggunakan yang understand the HTML. So dia akan gunakan the assistance of the DNS untuk dapatkan IP address of cisco.com. Jadi sekarang dia boleh gunakanlah the whole protocol stack untuk hantar this client request kepada HTTP server. So melalui HTTP, the web browser will send a request by using the HTTP GET. So dalam HTTP GET dia akan letaklah information, saya nak the index.html file. Alright. So server akan terima ini setelah dia melalui semua layer dalam TCP/IP. Server terima dan dia akan proses this request untuk hantar the specific page kepada client. So bila sampai the index.html, again the browser must understand HTML for it to be presentable. So index.html ni akan jadi dalam format yang mana the programmer has programmed the page to look like lah. Okay. So some other message types for HTTP adalah post dan juga So the secure version of HTTP is HTTPS. So HTTPS supports security features such as encryption and also authentication. Next, kita ada email protocols. So basically, email protocols should define how to send, how to store, and how to retrieve your email messages across the network. So these email messages are stored on mail servers in a database. So we need a client in order for us to read or retrieve these email messages from the server. So protocol yang commonly used for email applications adalah SMTP and IMAP or POP. So the SMTP protocol is used to send the mail, and POP and IMAP is used for the clients to receive the email. So we can see from the diagram here, this sender, when it sends an email, the SMTP protocol is used to do the resolution of the servers and to send the email to the proper server. So for example here, the destination server is cisco.com. So the SMTP will find a way to reach the cisco.com mail server. So now the email is stored in the mail server, and for it to be read by the client, you need to use the IMAP or POP3 depending on which client application that the user uses to read the email. So selalunya IMAP is preferable because when you retrieve the email is still stored on the server, so you are able to access these messages from multiple devices. Macam POP3, selalunya if you want to download your email to a particular device, then the user will use POP3. So when a user uses POP, the current version is POP3, when the mail is downloaded from the server, it is then deleted from the server. So this POP protocol uses port 110. When a client wants to make use of the service, it sends a request to establish a TCP connection with the server. So now you know because it uses a TCP as transport layer protocol. So kena ada connection establishment. And then the POP server sends a greeting, and then they can exchange messages untuk download the email. So like I said, IMAP still saves a copy of your email on the email server. Jadi user will have to manually delete these messages lah. So ini berguna when like right now you have multiple devices and you want to access your email from anywhere or from any device. Next, let's look at IP addressing services. So one of the protocols that is used for IP addressing purposes is the DNS. So its main purpose is to convert IP addresses into recognizable name. So nama-nama ini kita panggil sebagai fully qualified domain names. So fully qualified domain names mesti ada proper format lah. Okay, so dia kena ada the protocol and then the domain name. Okay, so why it was created adalah kerana the nature of the human beings adalah dia lebih mudah untuk ingat nama berbanding dengan number. So sebenarnya dekat network layer we use IP address which consists of numbers, but this would not be easy for people to remember, so we created domain names. So we need a protocol specifically to convert these names into unique IP addresses. So ada beberapa jenis name to IP resolution yang kita boleh buat lah. So ini dipanggil DNS records. So contohnya kita ada record type A, which is an end device having IPv4. And then we have an NS, an authoritative name server. Quadruple A, this is for IPv6. And then MX for a mail exchange. So ada banyak DNS server over the internet. So for our local network also, we need to set up a DNS server. Jadi bila ada client try to access a certain web page, the local DNS server will first look into its own database sama ada dia ada record of this domain name. Kalau dia tak ada, barulah dia akan hantar request kepada DNS server yang lain untuk cari the IP address for that domain name. So bila dia dah terima jawapan, dia akan store dalam dia punya own database supaya next time bila ada client yang request for the same domain name, dia tak perlu lagi hantar query kepada outside or remote DNS server. Dia hanya boleh perlu refer to its own database dan bagi or jawab request daripada klien dia. So the DNS message adalah berbentuk question, answer, authority and additional. So ini dalam bentuk DNS packet. So sebagaimana IP address needs to be unique, the domain name also needs to be unique. Tapi kita punya perkataan ni adalah banyak sehingga kita boleh pakai semua level unique. Jadi nak make sure nama-nama yang kita boleh repeat tu masih unik, kita jadikan dia sebagai hierarchy. Okay, so dalam hierarchy ni yang paling atas adalah root, kemudian kita ada top level domain yang biasa kamu jumpa dekat hujung-hujung ada .com, .net, .edu dan sebagainya, itu adalah top level domain. Then dia akan turun kepada the second level domain. Jadi dekat setiap level nama itu perlu unik. Tetapi kalau level dia berbeza, nama dia boleh sama. Ini kita panggil macam parent and child. So a child of a particular parent, the names needs to be unique. But if a different child of a different parent with another family, the names can be the same. Okey, kegunaan hierarki ini juga adalah supaya kita boleh divide list domain name kepada zones. Jadi contohnya lah kalau kita ada cisco.com, so Cisco ni adalah child kepada parent.com. So dalam cisco.com domain name ini, dia hanya perlu jaga domain names of these 3 servers sahajalah. Okey, ini kita panggil sebagai local authority. So this cisco.com second level domain needs to take care of these 3 subdomains, which is www, FTP and mail. So dia akan ada IP address resolution for these 3 domain names lah. Katalah dalam cisco.com, dalam company ni, dia perlu keluar kepada some IP address yang mempunyai domain name .edu. Dan if this server does not have the name resolution, then dia perlu paskan kepada zone yang lain lah, maksudnya kepada server yang lain yang mungkin mempunyai the IP address of that domain name. So selalunya name resolution ni adalah automatic melalui user protokol yang lain. Contohnya kita punya HTTP. Tetapi kita juga boleh buat manual name resolution menggunakan command line. Satu contoh command itu ialah nslookup. So nslookup is supported by your Microsoft platform and other OSs. So bila kita gunakan command ni, kita boleh manually put in the domain name that we want to resolve the IP. So ini cara penggunaan dia lah. Okay, so we can enter the domain name dan dia akan bagi the details of this domain. So ini cara yang useful untuk kita troubleshoot name resolution issues. Next on the IP addressing services adalah DHCP. So this protocol automates the assignment of IPv4 addresses, the subnet mask, the gateway and other networking parameters. So this automates the process bila sesuatu komputer or device first joins the network. Dan kita set this device to have DHCP dia terus akan cari di mana the DHCP server is and try to request for an available IP address. Jadi, the DHCP server punya tugas lah untuk look into the available IP dan offer kepada this device. So, antara information yang dia offer kepada device tu adalah the subnet mask dan juga the default gateway. Kalau device tu terima, sebab sometimes we have multiple DHCP servers. So, if the device receives multiple offers, dia akan terima the first one lah. Okay. Bila terima, tugas DHCP adalah untuk jaga mapping between the MAC address of that machine and the IP address being allocated to it. So, the server needs to keep track of this IP address mapping supaya ada duplicate IP address. So, ini adalah proses DHCP. Okay, so when a DHCP client first joins the network and it's configured to be having DHCP IP address, dia akan hantar DHCP discover message. So, this DHCP discover message is a broadcast sebab dia tak tahu lagi siapa the DHCP server is. Dia baru join network. So, dia akan hantar broadcast. So everybody will get the DHCP server, DHCP discover message. But kalau regular device, it will not recognize lah sebab dia bukan server. Jadi the actual DHCP server akan recognize this discover message dan dia akan hantar DHCP offer. So this DHCP offer akan bagi the IP address, subnet mask dan juga default gateway, dan dia akan bagi the list. Maksudnya berapa lama klien ni akan associated with that IP address. Kalau klien terima, dia akan issue a DHCP request. Okay, so ini menandakan yes, I want that IP address. Then server akan hantar acknowledgement DHCP act to say that okay, kita akan bindkan MAC address you dengan IP address yang kita dah offer. So selain daripada DHCP act, kita juga ada DHCP NAC or negative acknowledgement. Okay, so negative acknowledgement ini adalah untuk bagi tahu that the offer is no longer valid. So you tak boleh ambil IP address itulah maksudnya. Jadi kalau begitu, klien ni akan request for another IP lah dengan hantar another DHCP discover. Next section, we look at file sharing services. So for file transfer, we have a file transfer protocol or FTP. This enables the user to have an interface, a proper format of getting a specific file from a remote device. So dia menggunakan TCP port number 21 for the FTP server. So this connection to port number 21 is for control traffic. Next, the client akan access port number 20 on the server for the actual data transfer. So once these two connection has been established, so dia boleh initiate the data transfer, either pull ataupun push. Maksudnya dia pun boleh transfer data dari client kepada server ataupun request for specific files from the server to the client. Another protocol for file sharing message services is the server message block or SMB. So this is more useful for multiple platform file transfer. So for SMB, you have a start, authenticate, and terminate sessions. That means it has the capability for session authentication or user authentication. Also, it has the capability for sharing resources such as printers. And unlike FTP, it creates a long-term connection to servers. So, selalunya kita gunakan komponen SMB ni dalam kita punya overall domain management in order for us to be able to transfer file over the network and also map kita punya network drive. One example adalah the Samba Protocol Suite yang kita implementkan dalam kita punya network for this file transfer and resource sharing services. So that's it for the application layer protocol.